that they had on data centers. Stu, what architectures do you see being deployed for big data?
Yeah, Kristen, that's right. If you look at the guys that created Hadoop, so people like Jeff Hammerbacher over at Cloudera, what they said is people were spending way too much money to kind of store their information. And of course, when you're looking at big data, there's a lot of information. So need to look at new architectures. I look at last year, I did a presentation at Interop, and basically the title of it was, why big data is important, why it's going to, something you really need to pay attention to, and why it's not going on your SAN. So if you look at just kind of the price per gigabyte and the massive amount of features built into traditional IT infrastructure, the people that want to build Hadoop clusters and other big data architectures want to break that. So some of the solutions that have come out, first of all, are more densely and greater scalable solutions. So some of those are just high amounts of high amounts of disk in the compute. So if you look at folks like HP and a lot of others are just building, dense racks with compute and high volume disks built into it. Scale out architectures like scale out NAS deployments, such as what EMC's Isilon is doing, as well as cloud solutions. So there's we know that one of the things about cloud is we should be able to dial up or dial down the resources that we have available. And Dave Vellante from Wikibon says that big data gives cloud something to do. And so some of the early adopters of some of the big data deployments looked at it and said, when we've got, easily can put thousands of cores worth of resources on an application. We can really, turn on the resources and turn off the resources as needed in a cloud, so that fits really nicely architecturally with what clouds are doing. So there's not one architecture, there's many different ways we can do it, but most of them are not just the kind of bespoke, kind of hardened application deployments that other applications would have seen. Big data are newer architectures and lower price point for many of those different pieces.
Stu, something new to this year's Big Data Report is the presence of networking vendors. Can you tell us what has changed from last year to now?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we look at, when I look at infrastructure, the three layers of the stack that I tend to spend the most time on are the compute, the network, and the storage. And it talked a little bit about it, that first question about how some of the storage architectures are different and how that impacts on the compute. Networking is obviously going to be a piece of the overall architecture. I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago looking at Facebook's architecture, and of course, high bandwidth is important. But if we look at how do I have to change what I'm doing for networking, there's a little bit of a disagreement in the marketplace. So absolutely, I need high bandwidth, but do I need to have any special switches, special ports, special type of connectivity to be able to do big data? Some, namely Cisco, has come and said that they actually have some of their products with high buffers, really geared for low latency environments that they're targeting towards big data. Some of the others out in their marketplace, if I talk to kind of Juniper and Arista, they really talk about their products having a lot of those capabilities. They're built for low latency environments, specifically like Arista, or they can have kind of the software tweaks to be able to give the right service at the right time. Basically, if you look at the networking, there were networks. When we looked at it last year, networks would be a part of a big data solution, but we hadn't carved out revenue for them. We look at kind of the maturity of the solutions and how they're growing out there. We felt that it's time that some of the independent network guys get on the report. So specifically, you see Cisco, ranks pretty high up there, being the overwhelming market leader for networking, and Juniper also made the list. I'll also point out that HP, IBM, and Dell also have networking businesses that some of these solutions are part of. So if you look at like IBM Pure Systems has a solution built for data, and they do have a networking component that's part of the Pure Systems architecture. So networking is definitely a piece of the overall solution. If we look at that three-layer stack that I mentioned, compute's kind of the biggest dollar amount there, storage right underneath it, and networking's a relatively small piece. I think if we look at infrastructure overall, that from the hardware standpoint, that networking is going to be about 5% or maybe even a little less than that.
Currently, Google and Amazon are two of the leaders in big data and cloud, as we know. What big data cloud services are we seeing being offered in the market?
Yeah, so we talked about cloud really having this big opportunity to change the way that services are deployed. So if Amazon's the leader in kind of the cloud deployments, they've got a number of products. First of all, they've been shipping for I believe at least 3 years. Their Elastic MapReduce, where we can just do big data in the cloud. They've got a partnership with MapR. Amazon also recently had announced a couple of months ago and just GA'd their Redshift product, which allows you to really take a data warehousing solution to massive petabyte scale and really spin it up fast and really look much more like a big data solution rather than the traditional data warehousing environments would take years and massive amounts of capital to spin up. Amazon's allowing you to spin it up quick and turn it off when you don't need it. Rackspace is another one of the leaders out there in cloud, and they recently announced a partnership with Hortonworks for their private cloud environment, as well as there's definitely customers that are taking Hadoop and putting them on cloud platforms. So people like solutions like Microsoft Azure has Hadoop offerings. And Google's the other one that you mentioned there. Google launched their BigQuery technology, and it could be argued that Google really started some of the whole big data wave, as it were.